A very warm welcome to RTV News, folks, and thank you for joining us here this evening. We hope you had yourselves a very productive day. Now, at top of our edition tonight, these are our headlines. The draft law on the functioning of banks here in Rwanda is now being examined by the Parliamentary Committee on the Economy and Trade in the Chamber of Deputies. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning demonstrates that technology plays a significant role in public finance management and easing accessibility of services, where currently the rate of services acquired online is on 58%. Once again, we're glad to have your company here tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Martina Evera. The draft law on the functioning of banks here in Rwanda is now being examined by the Parliamentary Committee on the Economy and Trade in the Chamber of Deputies, requiring that foreign banks open branches in the country and not come as subsidiaries of their parent companies. The draft law also deals with the issue of services like private banking and will also facilitate in the provision of affordable loans to spur on national development. It also gives the central bank more power in the regulation of functions of commercial banks when it comes to protecting the interests of clients as a way of boosting confidence in the country's banking and financial sectors as a whole. Now, former members of the FDLR terrorist group in the Democratic Republic of Congo, who decided to abandon the genocidal ideology of the group and return peacefully to help develop not only the country, but their own lives as well, say they are glad that they decided to see reason and leave behind their former lives of desperation and delusion. Now, the following is a feature story on one such person, prepared by RBA's Silvanus Karemera and narrated to you by Adam Squizera.
He stays at Rwanda Hosal in Rulindo district, one of 5 districts of Rwanda's northern province, about 40 kilometers away from Kigali city, the Rwandan capital. Wenceslas Nizeyimana, one of the founding members of the FDLR, a genocidal terrorist outfit operating in the DRC, returned to Rwanda only 12 years ago. He has since been engaging in a wide range of projects, including farming, pig farming, and agriculture, which has so far paid off in terms of improving his family's welfare. Together with his family, they spend their time working in their banana plantations, as well as attending their cattle and pigs. This has become their source of their livelihood. As a cattle farmer, he attributes all his success to the Rwanda's inclusiveness policy and vision to all Rwandans. Wenceslas Nizeyimana, a former colonel in the FDLR, believes the headways made so far hinges on the country's resilience in the fights against individualism among Rwandans.
Look at the hygiene. I remember when the government decided to let all Rwandans wear shoes. We heard it on news from our jungles in the DRC. I was still in the forest. But I said to myself that this was not going to be possible because we believed that the government didn't have the money to make this happen. But President Kagame made it possible. Secondly, when the government decided to ban all grass-thatched houses, commonly referred to as nyakatsi, we as FDLR members back in Congo denounced it, claiming that the government was forcing people out of their houses. But gradually, this was instilled in people's minds, and they made it their responsibilities. Even those with limited or no means got support from the government. Now, this demonstrates the government's commitment to serve all Rwandans on equal grounds. It is obvious that all Rwandans are equal.
Colonel Wenceslas Nizeyimana is one of over 12,000 returnees who have repatriated from the DRC jungles so far. As key founding members of the FDLR and Rudurunana, his narration depicts their commitment to the forming groups that were opposed to insecurity to Rwanda.
When we got there, we formed FDLR group. I was one of the founders. I was a battalion leader and later became a deputy brigade commander. A few years later, I took the lead in the formation of another affiliated group of Rud Urunana, with which I was its deputy commander. But as we proceeded, some of the frictions emerged, especially after some of our leaders had repatriated, said General Rwarakabije and others. Again, our commander thought I had this ambition of overthrowing him, an accusation that had never crossed my mind. I thought this could lead to the loss of my life. That's when I started contemplating on how I could repatriate too, because then it was just 2 years after my wife had returned to Rwanda. Therefore, in April 2011, I decided to return to Rwanda.
Nizeyimana's wife, Uwizeyimana Vestine, who had stayed in Rwanda for just 2 years before her husband, says returning to Rwanda was not that simple decision to take, but she found a different story upon arriving back to Rwanda.
I was very nervous by the time I came back in Rwanda. Deep down, I wondered how they will receive me, bearing in mind I was a wife to a person from the FDRL. I can't lie, I couldn't feel it. But contrary to my thoughts, I was received with open hands. I have been enjoying this hospitality, peace and everything. I have spent years here and I have never had any gunshot. I'm very grateful to the president who has been integrating soldiers from Habyarimana's regime, and now they are considered peaceful Rwandans. I'm grateful to him because he assisted us in various ways. Frankly speaking, he has done everything that we needed. When I came, I had some injuries. They took me to Kanombe Hospital. From there I was treated and got well. I have since been okay and I'm really grateful.
12 years down the road, Wenceslas Nizeyimana is now employing over 200 people, including those who work for the private security company he established. This is Twishimire Laurien, who takes care of Nizeyimana's domestic animals, and Ukwizabadira Marie-José, one of the managers of Rukosek, a private security company that was established by Nizeyimana.
The first thing I appreciate is that I'm not unemployed, be a burden to the government. Over the years, I bought a piece of land and built my house. I have a family. I attribute all this to this job. All this makes me happy and hardworking.
I may give an example from my own experience. I had a house but not a modern house, but I currently have a house with tiles and other equipment because of Rukosek.
The Rwanda Demobilization and the Reintegration Commission's responsibilities is repatriating, training, supporting, reintegrating and follow-up on former fighters and soldiers after their repatriation to Rwanda. The Commission has for some years been empowering them particularly to contribute to the comprehensive development of the country. This is Valerie Nyirahabineza, the chairperson of this commission.
When they are in trainings, we teach them their rights as Rwandans, and how they can contribute to the development of their country. We remind them of their fundamental rights as citizens. You have rights, yes. You get a home, join various programs initiated by His Excellency, the President of the Republic. We appreciate his efforts. But again, you owe your country a contribution. We remind them of how they should stop from involving in any association of what they have been doing in the DRC and be ready to fight for their country. But again, we do a follow-up on them to see whether or not they comply with what they were taught.
Nizeyimana and his wife have gone through this program too and are grateful for the current life they are living, as they also urge others who are still in the forest to come back to their home country.
I urge them to come back home. Do they not see that I'm doing well? No one in this country discriminates. No one in this country can own what is yours. You work and save. You deposit on your bank account. I would urge them to come back and work. There is peace in the country. Never had a gunshot since I came in 2009. They should come and join us so that we can work. If they are poor, we will give them pigs. I urge them to come and work for their country.
I can say that the military struggle is over. We are only struggling for development. It is not simple now to just launch an attack. Technology has always been the way to go. The moment you try, Cameras and drones are there to monitor your bad intentions, and you could easily be destroyed with your weapons. And for the fact in Congo, they are still using Kalashnikov and mortar for fighting, and with no or limited number of bullets, and not everyone owns a gun. This country has made a lot of headways, including military technologies. I can assure you that no one can attack Rwanda and get away with it, be it Rwandans or their supporters. No one can destabilize Rwanda. No one can dare to destabilize Rwanda. They should instead come.
Valeri Nyirahabineza, chairperson of the Rwanda Demobilization and Reintegration Commission, says the process through which repatriated people have been going through before full integration has been commendable, with a lot of foreigners coming in to draw experience and best practices.
Kandi koko tumaze kugira abafite icyo nakwita ngo ni success stories.
We already have many success stories, to the extent where some other countries comes to witness the progress of those people who came along from those forests, how they are living, and how all these programs dedicated to them are implemented, hence to find themselves included as Rwandans. And all is done through this commission that have this particular mandate to reintegrate all the former members of the military.
No gusubiza mu buzima busanzwe abari abasirikari bose.
Among 12,715 were demobilized, where 12,195 of them are men, while other 104 are female soldiers, with 47 girls and 36 boys, whereas 77 of those are staying in the Muntobo Transit Center. Adams Kwizera, RTV News.
In a press briefing about the upcoming East African Health and Scientific Conference to be held in Rwanda from the 27th of September this year, the Secretariat of the East African Health Research Commission points out that efforts are being deployed in research as one of the ways to solve issues that hinder the health sector, but also as a way of preparedness in fighting various diseases and pandemics that may affect people of the member states of the EAC. Now, discussions also included sharing various achievements made since this conference started, since it would be the 9th edition. Achievements include making resolutions that assist in policy making, and also the fact that now member states of the EAC work together in importing medicines from abroad, which assists in reducing the amount of money spent when one country carries the activity alone. The Executive Secretary of the East African Health Research Commission reiterates on some key topics that will be tackled during the conference and how such conferences assist in preparing for various shocks that may arise in the health sector.
It is to share research findings and the challenges in health which are prevailing in our region. From the previous conferences, we do what we call development of policy briefs. It is from the whole findings and with recommendations that we develop policy briefs to guide decision makers, policy makers. The second point, from the discussions and the findings, we develop new programs, new projects, because we find the key issues, health issues which are in our region. In these presentations of findings, we learn the new innovative ways for preparedness and response to communicable diseases, especially regarding to strengthen our health systems. You know, the COVID-19 revealed a lot of weaknesses in our health system. So we want to take advantage of those weaknesses now to find a way to mitigate the gaps.
The 9th edition of the East African Health and Scientific Conference will convene researchers from member states of the EAC, and it will start from the 27th to the 29th of September 2023. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning demonstrates that technology plays a significant role in public finance management and easing accessibility of services, where currently the rate of services acquired online is on 58%. Prince Manzi with more.
These were said in discussions between public entities in charge of digitalization and various government partners. The Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of ICT and Innovation, Ivira Dukunda, demonstrates that the government aims at increasing the rates of digital literacy for achieving the set goals of digitalizing various services, as at the end of the day, the priority is the citizen.
We have programs like digital ambassadors that are supporting, but also encourage acquisition of devices, smart devices, so that they can be able to enjoy and access services within the comfort of their home. So it's a journey, and we continue to work with development partners. Many of them are here today to make sure that service delivery and access to government services is easier for the citizen.
Digitization gives us...
The Minister of State in charge of National Treasury at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, Richard Tusabe, points out that the technology plays a significant role in public finance management and easing accessibility of services, adding that it is critical for collecting data that supports government reforms and interventions.
Digitization gives us not only transparency, accountability, and efficient utilization of resources, but it also enables us to have data that can inform our interventions. When we were sitting here, and I was like, what are you seeing with PFM efficiency and the audit reports, the reporting, risk management? So we think we've benefited a lot from that, but what is it that we need to see in terms of risk management engines that we are going to build to collect revenues from tax administration, to efficiently pay from the treasury, but more importantly, to inform social and economic development interventions that we make as a government through our LISA agencies.
In the NST1 goals, the government aims at increasing the rate of services provided online to 100% by 2024. The rate is currently on 58%. Prince Manzi, AllTV News.
Thank you, Prince Manzi, for that report. Environmental experts have again reiterated that African countries need to work to fight climate change and its effects to help protect the continent's vulnerable agricultural sector. Projections have confirmed that in a few years, African nations will be losing as much as 8% of their GDP because of climate change.
African countries are among the most affected. The whole globe is exposed, but it's just not your exposure. It's your preparedness. It's your capabilities to deal with that exposure that determine at the end of the day your vulnerability. We're exposed like everybody, but we tend to have risk and vulnerability to climate, and identifying ways to measure and track those as we develop programs that can be guided by this evidence to act. That's the first thing we talked about here today. The second thing was about what are the costs of climate change to us. Unless you can put a dollar amount, a loss of GDP, a reduced level of productivity, a loss of employment, a loss of earning that is resulting from climate change, it's hard to get people's attention, but also to know how much effort needs to be leveraged right now to improve what's happening on the ground.
Though the effects of climate change here in Rwanda have not been felt as much as in some other countries on the continent, authorities have nevertheless stressed the need to implement effective measures to protect the climate and mitigate such effects. Now, stakeholders have convened for a multi-stakeholder platform meeting for Circular Food Systems program, a platform which aims to share ideas, knowledge, experiences, and best practices to address food loss and waste, which is currently a concern both in Rwanda and globally. The multi-stakeholder platform is part of the 3-year project Circular Food Systems for Rwanda, which works for the transformation of Rwanda's food systems to make them more circular and sustainable. The platform brings together a diverse group of stakeholders, including policymakers, the private sector, development partners, civil society organizations, and academia to advance knowledge and build strong local understanding of the circular economy concept, its application, and benefits.
Generally speaking, from the wider range of view, I think this is something that is still new in the mindset, and again, this touches on how we do things. do we do things having in mind that whatever I'm doing should be circular in nature? Whatever product that I'm doing, any waste or any other things derivative from this product can still serve purpose somewhere else as an input. Instead of linear, we do also circular economy throughout, not only in the agriculture sector, but also in other sectors as well. We believe that from the private sector perspective, from all the partners, if you can tackle the mindset, but also the strategies in our models, in the way we do things, we will be able to address this. That's number one. Number two is how do we mobilize the critical mass of the people who have the same understanding and the capacity, actually, which was also one of the interventions we made in August, I think, where we brought together all the people who are relevant to the discussion to understand, unpack, what is this? What does this mean? And how can we really address this together? I think capacity enhancement of the people to be able to understand, including the skills, but also the businesses and the technical assistance, which actually the organization is also providing, that if we tackle the skills aspect, and if we tackle the capacity element, and capacity means a number of things, may mean the technology that is needed, but also may need the human resources that are able to understand and unpack and be able really to scale up the businesses. There are already businesses, but they need to be scaled up, but also we do have other areas that are untapped that we need really to promote.
Tuesday's platform meeting focused on how to support SMEs involved in production of circular economy products to meet required standards and product certification for easy market access, while the next platform meetings will discuss on other aspects that include technology access, access to finance, and others. Through the program, medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, will be supported to adopt circular business models and an enabling policy environment which will be created to discuss such aspects to support system transformation. SMEs will also be supported for market linkages, for design and commercialization of circular agri-food value chains in Rwanda. Now, the United Nations Educational, Cultural and Scientific Organization, UNESCO, on Tuesday started a two-day discussion with the Ministry of ICT and Innovation in the context of a joint review of principles approved by UNESCO regarding the modern technology of artificial intelligence in the field to prevent it from being misused and going against human rights. Albert Mutesa is the Secretary General at Rwanda National Commission for UNESCO.
If the AI technology makes a decision that a person is not satisfied with, who is accountable for that? For example, when it comes to the law enforcement department and there are crimes that have been committed by people of different races. Since some of this technology can't be 100% sure, guidelines and measures were put in place so that such mistakes are not made. Since Rwanda is a country with a spirit of development and wants to continue to use technology in part of its advancement, AI is one of some of the technologies that is being looked at, but also in a sense that it satisfies its users correctly.
April this year, the cabinet approved the artificial intelligence policy, and Rwanda is one of the countries that wants to use this technology without putting anything or anyone else at risk, according to Victor Muvunyi, the emerging technologies senior technologist in the Ministry of ICT and Innovation.
It was important that UNESCO be at the forefront in ensuring guidelines on the ethics of AI. These measures are so that people can be able to use it well, know its value, and how they can use it as a helping hand instead of letting it take over completely. Anything that has to do with technology, if not regulated, can cause more harm than good.
It is the principle approved in its 41st General Assembly held in November 2021, as explained by the Secretary General at Rwanda National Commission for UNESCO, Albert Mutesa. That story marks the end of our bulletin tonight, and on behalf of the news production team and I, we would like to thank you for sticking with us on RTV News, and it was brought to you by myself, Martina Avera. Stay safe and have a great night.